History likes to pretend that everything it keeps is dead. In museums, we place the past behind glass dressed in light and silence, as if it no longer breathes. We tell ourselves that these halls are sanctuaries for memory, where stone and papyrus and bone have forgotten the lives they once lived. But not everything behind those walls is memory. Some things remember us. They listen when we walk by, they whisper when we leave, and sometimes they wait for someone to take the night shift. Cairo's museums are full of faces carved in eternity, kings, priests, gods. But deep beneath their watchful eyes, a new shipment arrived one quiet evening. No records, no sender, just a box sealed with red wax and inside children. Not real, they said, just statues. But when the lights go out, when the halls go silent, the wax begins to move. And the night guard, Omar Nassar, is about to learn what it means to be preserved forever. Omar Nassar didn't believe in curses. Not anymore. He was a man of practicality, of rent payments and bus schedules, a man who saw the city's ancient ghosts as nothing more than tourist attractions. He used to laugh at tourists who threw coins into the Nile and whispered wishes to the spirits of the river. But now, standing alone in the museum's empty marble halls, the air thick with the smell of polish and dust, he found himself glancing at the shadows a little too often. The silence here was different. It wasn't empty. It was waiting. It was his first week working the graveyard shift at the Egyptian Antiquities Museum, a job he'd taken out of desperation. His father's health was failing, medical bills piling up like sand dunes, and rent was overdue. The night work paid extra, a small comfort in the suffocating weight of his obligations. All he had to do was make rounds, watch the cameras, and keep people out. It was a simple job for a simple man. Simple, until the shipment came. It arrived just before midnight, carried by two men who moved with a grim, hurried silence. A wooden crate taller than a man, the wood damp and splintered, looking as though it had been pulled from a forgotten tomb. It was marked only with a single red wax seal, the same symbol burned onto the corner of the museum's oldest sarcophagus, a spiral within an open eye. Omar had seen it before on a plaque he was told never to touch. The curator, Dr. Hassan, a man whose life was etched into the lines around his eyes, oversaw the delivery personally. He didn't smile. He didn't speak a word of welcome. He just signed the form with a shaky hand, his gaze fixed on the crate, and ordered Omar to store it in the north exhibit room. Then, without another word, he left, his footsteps echoing down the long, empty corridor. When Omar pried open the crate with a crowbar, the screech of metal on wood was the only sound in the cavernous hall. His flashlight trembled in his hand, its beam cutting through the darkness inside. What he saw made the air catch in his throat. Inside were wax figures, 6 of them, children, perfectly sculpted, each frozen mid-laughter, mid-step, their bodies captured in moments of innocent play. But there was a grotesque realism to them. Their glassy eyes caught the light like wet marbles, seeming to follow his every move. Their clothes were faded, but real, stitched from something old and brittle that looked like it would crumble to dust at the slightest touch. The tag on the crate read only one word, scrawled in faded ink: donors. A chill, cold and sharp, ran down Omar's spine. Donors of what? By the third night, Omar had memorized every creak and echo of the museum, the groan of the old buildings settling, the hum of the climate control, the distant cry of a siren from the city streets. He had made a fragile peace with the loneliness. But around 3 a.m., when the city outside had gone completely silent and the world seemed to hold its breath, he heard it. A shuffle, soft, deliberate, the sound of something dragging against the polished marble floor, like a slipper sliding across the cold stone. It came from the north exhibit. He turned the corner of the exhibit and froze. One of the wax children, the one with the red ribbon in her hair, was facing him. Its head was tilted slightly to the side, its painted lips curved into a semblance of a curious smile. But Omar was certain, absolutely certain, that he'd left it facing the wall. He had checked just an hour ago. He blinked, shaking his head, trying to chase away the exhaustion playing tricks on his mind. Maybe Dr. Hassan had come in and moved it earlier. Maybe one of the day's staff had forgotten to reposition it. He was tired. That had to be it. But when he returned to the security room and his eyes fell on the camera feed for the north exhibit, his blood ran cold. The figure was still turned toward the camera, toward him, its wax eyes gleaming under the flicker of the tired fluorescent lights. And then it blinked, a slow, deliberate closing and opening of its glassy eyes. The next day, Omar found Dr. Hassan in his cluttered office, surrounded by stacks of books and ancient artifacts. He tried to talk to him, his voice cracking with the fear he couldn't hide. The old man's face went pale, his skin turning the color of old parchment, when Omar described what he saw on the monitor. "Don't look at them directly," Hassan whispered, his voice a dry rasp. He grabbed Omar's arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "Never stay in that room past 3. Omar demanded to know what they were. Where did they come from? But Hassan only shook his head, muttering, "They were donations. From a private collector in Luxor, a man obsessed with preservation." The curator hesitated, then leaned in closer. "The note said they were made with human wax." Omar laughed nervously, a sharp, hollow sound. "There's no such thing," but Hassan didn't answer. He just stared past Omar, his eyes wide with the terror that had been brewing for years. That night, Hassan didn't come to work. Omar waited, but the old man never arrived. The next morning, his office door was found ajar, his coat still hanging on the chair, a half-finished cup of tea cold on his desk. Dr. Hassan had vanished. A frantic energy seized Omar. He had to know what happened. He went through the security tapes, his hands shaking, as he fast-forwarded through the long, silent hours of the night, until the clock on the screen hit 3:15 a.m. The feed glitched. For a second, the screen filled with static, a screeching digital scream. And when the picture cleared, Dr. Hassan was standing in the north exhibit. He wasn't alone. The wax children surrounded him. They were not frozen now, but standing upright, their wax limbs creaking and popping as they reached toward him with stiff, unnatural movements. Their faces, once frozen in smiles, stretched into faint, predatory grins as Hassan turned to run. The final frame showed his mouth open in a silent scream, his eyes wide with an unspeakable horror, and then the camera cut to black. Omar stared at the frozen, static-filled screen, his own terrified reflection trembling in the dark monitor. The museum grew colder each night, a deep, penetrating chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. And now, a new scent mingled with the dust and polished the faint, cloying smell of melted wax. It clung to Omar's skin, his clothes, no matter how much he washed. When he walked through the exhibits, He felt it 1,000 unseen eyes watching, the air shifting in his wake, and the sound, the faintest whisper of movement behind glass cases, the soft drag of wax on stone echoing from distant halls. One night he woke with a jolt from a fitful nap in the security chair, the monitors flickering erratically. Every feed showed the same image, the wax children. They were standing in a line in front of their display case, all 6 of them, staring directly into the camera. Their faces had changed. They were no longer children. The wax had shifted, reformed, warped into new expressions, new features. They looked like him. Each face was a distorted, mocking caricature of his own. Sleep-deprived and cornered by a terror he could no longer deny, Omar decided to end it. He would burn the figures. He found a can of cleaning fuel in the maintenance room and stumbled toward the north exhibit, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. The lights flickered violently as he stepped inside the room, casting long, dancing shadows that writhed on the walls. The wax children stood where they always had, still, silent. Their imitation of his face made his stomach turn. He raised the lighter, his thumb hovering over the wheel, and heard a voice behind him, a child's whisper echoing in the vast, cold room. "Don't leave us in the dark." He spun around and the lighter fell from his numb fingers. The figures were moving, slowly, fluidly, their wax skin cracked and split, revealing something pale and slick beneath muscle, sinew, bone. As they reached for him, their voices layered together into a discordant, horrifying chorus. "Don't leave us. You're one of us now," Omar screamed, a raw, primal sound of pure terror, stumbling backward as the fuel can tipped, spilling its contents across the marble floor. The lighter sparked as it hit the stone, and the world erupted in a storm of fire and molten wax. He thought he heard them scream as the flames consumed them. But then the sound turned into laughter high, childlike, and utterly mad. The next morning, the police found the museum burned nearly to the ground, a blackened skeleton against the Cairo dawn. No trace of Omar Nassar was ever found, but among the melted, charred remains of the North exhibit, 6 wax figures stood untouched by the fire, their surfaces smooth and pristine. There were 7 now. The 7th bore Omar's face, frozen in a silent scream. Some say wax remembers the warmth of the body that shaped it. It remembers every breath, every heartbeat, every final, terrified thought. In the ashes of the museum, the faces still shine perfect, silent, eternal. The collector's note was found later, its ink half burned, but still legible. For each statue made, another must take its place. And now, somewhere in Cairo, another box waits to be opened. Another night guard will take the job, and the wax will never run out. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this spooky story, please hit the like button and share it with a friend. Subscribe for more content and check out our other stories. Thanks again for watching and stay tuned for more stories. Goodbye.